Welcome to Bound News Network. We're working here on our perfect English grammar series. This is Volume 2, Chapter 10, and we're actually working on our latest vocabulary. We're going to be adding 12 new words, as you can see: capricious, didactic, exculpate, exigent, fervid, and so forth, all the way to turpitude. And let's take a closer look at some of the words that we're going to be working on here. Also, we wanted to bring to your attention that we're actually going to be reinforcing as we go through into Volume 3. For the next volume, there we're going to be working more on our cue words. We found them very helpful in trying to help us remember words as we study for these exams. This is just an example here. We can see from the words that we filled in for Volume 2, Chapter 7, we see cosmopolitan, denote, desultory, all the way down to vanguard, and we inserted two sets of words or phrases from the sample sentence. And this has been really powerful way to recall. We're actually recalling the story of the word, of how it was used in a sample sentence. So to give you an example, we use a sample sentence about a flight attendant who wanted to travel the world so he could have a more cosmopolitan view of the world, and that means worldly or of the world. Another example is desultory. Desultory is a little tricky of a word to remember by itself, but when you remember the cue words, actor and practice, the actor was very the sample sentence went along these lines, where the actor was very passionate about his craft, but when it came to his practice, he didn't practice his craft. So we see the desultory there as far as it being used. Let's see, paradox, Weight Watchers versus Krispy Kreme, passionate about losing weight with Weight Watchers, but you binge on Krispy Kreme, so therefore we have a paradox. And that was just to give you an idea of how to use these recall sheets. We will touch on this once more. As you can see, we've left Volume 2 and Volume 2 Chapter 8 and Volume 2 Chapter 9 free, so that you can actually just do a screenshot and fill them in on your own by simply going back to you'll see the links in the video description box that will allow you to quickly go back and review the sample sentences for each of these words and fill in your own cues as needed. So let's go ahead and focus on the new set of words that we're working on today. So we have here capricious, which is an adjective. We see a synonym of erratic. We do have the brain picture there, and this is the first in the storage bin of the hair storage bin for the group HEM, which is hair, air, and mouth, act on impulse. And of course, it's fitting that it's actually on the head because you're acting on impulse, which is erratic, and we see there the brain. So if you want to do a brain map as far as mapping the word capricious to the image of the brain, then that will help you remember the meaning of the word. Capricious, act on impulse, adjective. Didactic, educative, intended for teaching, and we see there that we used a book to help you remember the actual word of didactic. Didactic, intended for teaching. That is going to appear for the air storage bin in our HEM group. Now keep in mind we have color coded these words. So you have the blue group, you have an orange group, red group, and the gray group. This helps you to remember, to flash remember the words. So the words here are in the blue group are capricious, didactic, and exculpate. Exculpate. And exculpate means to blame. So there you have the image of someone with a finger pointing to blame, to clear of blame. So we do see there that As far as the definition is concerned, we're looking to clear from blame. And X, you see there is a prefix of the word, so that will give you an idea that you're actually removing. So it's remove blame, to clear up from blame. And then we start on the orange group, which is going to be exigent, exigent, and we have here as a synonym, it's going to be action, action, and we do see there, the reason we chose the image of the filming camera, old style filming camera with a large film, is that we wanted to give you an idea where you could map the word exigent to the word of film. So let's actually take a closer look at the words capricious, didactic, and exculpate, and how they're actually used in a sentence. Capricious: the prime minister, despite having a capricious temper, had formed strong alliances with the business community and created 250,000 jobs during his first year in office. Act, adjective meaning act on impulse. Didactic: the professor was a very didactic person. He loved to read book excerpts to his class. Adjective meaning intended for teaching. And exculpate: as a result of the sheriff's investigation, the fugitive was finally exculpated of all criminal charges. Clear from guilt or blame. Verb. So there we have the blue group: capricious, didactic, and exculpate. The words are becoming a little bit more difficult, so as always, we wanted to recommend that you use your vocabulary recall sheet. You can actually set it up similar to this one, and take in studying and reviewing this material, it's best to prepare a similar worksheet. You can do a screenshot of this. I would recommend that you actually go back to chapter 8 and chapter 9. You'll see the links in the video description box, which will allow you. We had presented this fully filled out vocabulary recall sheet from volume 1 chapter 7 through volume 2 chapter 2. You can see here these are 6 different chapters, and we filled it in with keywords, and this is our keywords. For you to study and remember these words, these keywords may work for you, but also you should remember the sample sentence, because your brain is programmed or designed to recall the story of how the word was actually used and in what context, and that is going to be able to trigger long-term memory. So if we take a look at exigent and fervid and imprecation, we see here that exigent action, we've covered that one. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence. Exigent: despite the faulty plumbing and the flooded apartment, James didn't know how to address the exigent alarms. And that's actually requiring immediate attention. Adjective, requiring immediate attention. And then we have fervid, enthusiastic, very passionate. Fervid kind of gives me the connotation of, for one reason or another, a vampire. So there we have the image of vampire fangs, very, very passionate. And the synonym is enthusiastic. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence here. Fervid: at one point Jennifer thought crocheting was great for her arthritis. However, her fervid hobby, or passionate and enthusiastic hobby, contributed to severe pain in her left wrist. Adjective meaning very passionate. And then we're going to round out the orange group with imprecation, and we see there that it's a horrendous prayer for harm for someone, or a curse. We actually use the image of someone in a mask simply because of our current level of pandemic alertness, so that we wanted to make sure that we had associated with something more current. But with respect to how it's actually used, we can see imprecation, the The most horrifying parts of the movie Thinner involve the issuance of imprecations. Imprecations, which are prayers for harm to do to someone or to request a curse, and it's a noun. So that rounds out our blue group and our orange group. So if you recall, we do the thing where we actually put our hand over the right side. So capricious, we know that has to do with the act of act on impulse because of the brain image. Didactic, that has to do with teaching. So there is a book. Exculpate. So we know that that has to do with blame, or release of blame. And so there's an image there of someone pointing angrily. Exigent, action. Fervid, of course, it sounds almost kind of carnal. Fervid, so we have the image of vampire fangs. And imprecation, and that has to do with a curse. So those are the first six of our words that we're working on today. Let's see: levity, pith, and render for the red group. And levity, it has to do with the lightness, which shows the button from that is very synonymous with Levi jeans, simply because Levi jeans implies a little bit more of a lightness to or casual. So we're wanting to associate the button from the Levi jeans with levity, but levity is lightness or lack of seriousness. And then pith is the core, the essence. You see there the core of a walnut, or the essence of the walnut. And then render must mean simply submit. And we've been programmed to see that image of an envelope where you actually send email. So we chose that as a trigger for you to remember the word render, which means to translate, or synonym. Let's see how they're actually used in sentences. Levity. The actor approached the filming of the scene with such levity that the director had to delay it for 3 days. Noun meaning lack of seriousness. And then pith. When the president delivered his speech, the pith of the message was unity for all Americans, regardless of race. Noun meaning core or essence. And render. Sometimes the software can take up to 15 minutes to render the movie in its final form. So that just gives you an idea of how we actually are using these three words from the red group. So if you recall, just by the color alone: capricious, didactic, exculpate, and then that's the blue group, or the HEM group, and then we have the exigent, fervid, and imprecation, and that is our orange group. And then we have levity, pith, and render for the red group, which is the AWH group: arm, wrist, and hand. And now we're looking at revolt, toady, and turpitude. Revolt has to do with lewd or vulgar humor. Let's see how it's actually used in a sentence. Revolt, revolt, revolt. The team owner's speech was flagged by the media for its ribald comments about other teams they faced during the championship. Adjective meaning vulgar humor. And toady, the manager suspected that the new hire was toady simply to get a promotion with a higher salary. Toady. And then we have turpitude. We have the image of kind of a distorted image of a person in kind of a white, in a black and white lighting, and that was supposed to signify the difference between light and darkness, or depravity as well as good nature. So that may or may not be a good memory trigger for you, but as far as a contrast between light and darkness, in the world, that would be an association to the depravity or corruption. So the word turpitude, sample sentence: the city manager's attempt to fix the political system in a city was met with sabotage and turpitude. Noun meaning corrupt or corruption. So there you have the 12 words that we're actually working on for this set. And this rounds out our volume 2. This is chapter 10 of volume 2. We're going to start working on volume 3. As I mentioned before, we're actually going to spend a lot more time with doing recall tricks to help your brain remember and recall the story of the word. However, now that we've completed actually 2 volumes of pretty good vocabulary, and we're basically about halfway through our list of about 500 to 600 words that we anticipate that are going to be on the TOEFL or SAT. Our goal was to cover a list of about 500 words, and we're about halfway point now with volume 1 and 2 that we've actually completed. So you should definitely pat yourself on the back for getting this far if you actually completed volume 1 and volume 2. If not, no problem. You can actually go back using the navigation menu in each video description box to actually review a lot of these words. A lot of these words are not used in everyday language, but they may appear in listening and writing or even comprehension exercises as far as passages you may need to comprehend or review on any of the standardized exams. But we've tried to put together a good way, coupled with using a picture to word association, which once you start studying these cheat sheets, it will allow you to help you to recall, coupled with the cheat sheet for the cues, which are just a word or phrase, 2 words or phrases that will help you quickly flash memory the sample sentence. But of course, you'd have to read the sample sentence so that you can remember it. And then when you start working on the memory of these words, then you have your cues, and that is going to be that's going to assist you with really helping you to understand how the word is used and in what context. There you see the word supplant. Now, by itself, it doesn't really help you to recall what the word supplant by itself, but keywords gas guzzler and Tesla gives you an idea that the sample sentence must imply a replacement of. So there you have it. Now you're triggered the definition, which will allow you to map all the way back to the synonym, and then possibly even remember the color group that supplant was in, which I believe was gray. So there you have it. So these are going to be helping you to really firmly help you to remember these words, how they're actually used. You'll be able to start pulling them in your everyday tracks as far as preparation of memos or preparation of emails, and this will help you to really significantly expand your vocabulary. And of course, you have the picture word association. So thank you for watching Bound News Network. This is our volume 2, chapter 10. We're going to start working on volume 3 shortly. By all means, make sure that you smash the like button so that these tips can be shared with other people. And we do appreciate you tuning into Bound News Network for our latest Perfect English Grammar series. We're just going to continue going until we get it to at least 500 or 600 words, and then we can start doing a lot more comprehensive reading passages and focus on recalling a lot of these words. Of course, if you don't study them, then it's going to be a little bit harder for you to recall them on the exam, but it's all about ingraining these words into your everyday vocabulary and also fine-tuning your grammar skills. Well, we hope this helped you. Thank you for tuning in. Smash that notification bell so that you'll know when we go live with our first chapter of volume 3. Have a great day, and thank you for tuning in to Bound News Network for our latest Perfect English volume 2 chapter 10.